Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, your Swansea City podcast. I'm Matt Barocco and I'm joined as ever by Steve Carroll. Evening, Steve.
Evening.
So we've just seen Luke Williams' first league match in charge of the Swans, an entertaining 2-2 draw at St Andrews against Birmingham. What did you make of the game, Steve?
It was an entertaining one, really, wasn't it? We had great support up there. It was a great atmosphere. A really enjoyable day, really. You could see signs of what we were trying to do. I mean, we were certainly trying to keep possession better than we have done. There were, shall we say, some mistakes, which is not a great surprise, really. I mean, when you're trying to change the style a bit, there's no way you're going to, Rome wasn't built in a day, springs to mind. And I mean, Humphreys, for example, was a little bit shaky in the first half. But I thought on the whole, there were certainly some positives, although obviously we're a bit frustrated that we didn't win, aren't we? But there was certainly signs, I think, of an improvement. I'm not sure if you felt the same.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to make of it, really, because the first half, all the chances went to them, and I think they had a shout to getting a couple of goals there. But as you say, one of the biggest ones was a massive fuck up by Humphreys, which basically put them through 1-on-1 down the side, and they even had a follow-up opportunity from that as well, which was blocked. I can't remember who it was, through his body at it, but I mean, they had chances.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a mixture of Grimes and someone, wasn't it? We were lucky, really. The first shot has gone straight at Humphreys, and then we've the follow up really has just hit one of our defenders as well. So we did get a little bit lucky with that one, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's what I think was bizarre, because you're thinking, right, okay, we're obviously feeling our way into this new way we want to play and stuff, and how Luke Williams. But I mean, we did expect to be a little bit leakier on the chance conceded front, and it was that way. I think they were pulling a lot of the strings and having the lion's share of the opportunities. But the first one that we managed to get on target, and it's a bullet header from Harry Darling, and he's been threatening that almost every set piece this season, isn't he? He's a real threat in the opposition box for us.
Yeah, I think did he score about 5 goals last season? There's been a couple so far this season. He is. I mean, we've probably bemoaned it for a long time that set piece wise, we're our defenders don't really chip in with enough goals. I know obviously Cabango has scored a couple. Obviously,
he scores more with his head, Cabango, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say 2 of them particularly memorable, but not with his head. But
no, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, Darling if you watch it back, I mean, he really attacks the ball, doesn't he? I think that's why he ends up winning it. And it's not a particularly close range header, is it? I mean, no. It's probably closer to the 18-yard line than the 6-yard line. But look, it's a great header and a glorious goal for us. And like I say, we hadn't really threatened that much at that point, but we'll certainly take it. And always nice to score from a corner, because you feel like it doesn't happen often enough.
Dare I say, as it seems to be a repeated thing throughout this season for the Swans, the inability to hold a lead. And for all our resolute...
You wouldn't let us take the dog for a walk, would you?
No, absolutely not. I think for all our resolute defending up until that point, it always seems to be just after we scored that we seem to go to shit, and no difference here. And Dembele, who, to be fair, we were chatting about him before we started recording, Steve, a constant thorn in our side, could have got a hat-trick on Saturday. A real danger player, someone I'd love to see us have in our ranks, but he gets the equaliser from a cute angle.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he did cause us a lot of problems, didn't he? I mean, it was a good run, and then the angle isn't really a generous one for a finish, but sticks it in the far corner, and I think. But if I'm honest, I'm a bit frustrated with us in terms of, you look at some of the business that we did in the summer, and obviously that was something we've lacked, is a bit of pace out wide and someone that can genuinely beat a man. We don't really have that, and the fee, I think, for him to go to Birmingham was only a couple of £1 million, and you're thinking, well, that's a player that really would have improved us. And you see some of the other business that we've done. We spent a fair few quid. That one would have been significantly better value for money, I think. So I'm a bit frustrated by seeing how good he was and thinking, oh, cool, that was a realistic one for us. I'm not sure we would have got him necessarily, but that was certainly one that we could have got. And God, he would just give us such an added dimension, really, wouldn't he? But like I say, he was a big threat all afternoon, and he should have put Birmingham in front just after half time, shouldn't he? He was in 1-on-1, and Rushworth has bailed us out, really. But yeah, he'll be disappointed there that he didn't score, I think, to put the hosts in front.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive chance that. I mean, you don't get many better at this level to stick away. And I think, yeah, like I said, he'd probably be disappointed that he isn't walking home with a match ball, because he did get himself into a few cracking positions. But I mean, the way he was direct running at us, we couldn't deal with it all afternoon. And yeah, we do have a bit of a sticking point at that on that right side of defence, with an added issue with Sam Parker going off on the weekend as well. So I mean, it is, the injury list is piling up, and all seems to be concentrated in one area at the moment, which is less than ideal for us. But it may be something we need to look at this month. But I mean, in terms of where we're at, seeing a player like him with that direct running, with the pace, with the trickery, we couldn't deal with it. And like you said, just after half time, should be putting the hosts 2-1 up in Mowbray's first game. But again, we got the goal, the man between the sticks to thank, Steve, and he was a busy man for large parts of Saturday, particularly the first hour or so, wasn't he? He was a man that we needed in goal, Carl Rushworth. Yeah,
we've praised him a lot this season, and understandably so, really. But yeah, there were some good saves, like you say, really mainly in the first half, and then that big one there just after half time. But I mean, after that, he didn't have a huge amount to do, which is probably a source of quite big frustration from my point of view, that we obviously haven't ended up winning. But yeah, look, we've praised him numerous times on the pod this season. He's a top goalkeeper. We're lucky to have him, and yeah, it's certainly not a position that we feel we need to strengthen at this moment in time. I mean, we'll have it'll be a different conversation in the summer, obviously. But yeah, we're lucky that we've got him, and I think without him, we know that we'd have less points on the board. So yeah, he's been a really good signing for us.
It's a bit of a weird one, because you talk about the first half, Birmingham having all the chances and then us scoring. The second half, we created a few chances before Lowe did score. I think Lowe himself had a great shot saved by Radi coming down that same side.
Yeah, with that, he charged the ball down, didn't he?
Fantastic touch.
Fair, it's gone in the air. That first touch is outrageous, really, isn't it? So yeah, and it's probably a similar chance to what Dembele had, but yeah, obviously it wasn't. It's difficult to score from there. We've got to be realistic about it. But yeah, I mean, that second goal was just a really good move, wasn't it? Cullen's put a nice ball to Timon, who obviously has got 2 assists on Saturday, so that's really good. And it was a lovely ball in. I've got to be honest, right? All season I have felt that we shouldn't really be crossing the ball in the air because of our lack of height. So it was nice to see a ball go in the box on the floor, and the fact that we've scored from it, which proves the point. So Lowe's done really well there to get in front of the defender. It's just a nice little flick then, and obviously it's gone in. So there's definite lessons to learn from that, because so many times I've seen us whip the ball in the box in the air, and I'm thinking, we do realise that we don't have any height. And I'm thinking, unless Kukarevic is playing, then it's a little bit different. You could probably whip the ball into him. He is more likely to score in the air, but the rest of them I never fancy in a 50-50. So yeah, I think it was good to see us put one in on the floor. We made it count. And obviously there were a couple of other chances that we had that were, along the same lines, and arguably we should have done better from them.
Well, I'll come on to that in a minute, because it is a massive source of frustration from our top goal scorer. And I know that sounds like a bit of a weird thing to say, but first of all, Harry Darling almost added to his goal tally with a looping header that come back off the crossbar. And it was that point of the game, Steve, where, unlike the first half, or almost the polar opposite to the first half, where we were doing all the chance creation, Birmingham were looking a little bit at 6s and 7s. And after that Darling effort and Lowe's goal, the game should have been put out of sight when Jerry Yates failed to get on the end of a Patterson cross.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you say, Darling had that good header that sort of dipped late. There was another one that Lowe had, wasn't there? But it was offside. But to be fair, that was a great ball from Grimes when they were, he's controlled it with his knee, and then the flag has gone up. But that was really good as well. Yeah, the Yates chance was annoying. I mean, for me, it's a good ball in. It's slightly in front of him. But
what can he ask for? He's pointed. He's watching it back.
This is the problem. I think against Boreham, the ball was too far ahead of him. So I'll stick up for him on that one. But the Patterson cross the other day, he should have made it. You've got to get in there for that. I mean, that was a really good chance, and it's fairly obvious if that goes in, we would have won comfortably in it. So
yeah,
you just feel like for a goal scorer, that was a really good opportunity, and he's not taking it, and obviously it's proved to be costly as well, isn't it? So frustrating. I mean, Yates wasn't picked to start, so that would have been a really good thing for him to have got on the score sheet, and he's not really done anything there, is he, to suggest the manager got it wrong. So yeah, that's frustrating. That was a good chance. If you're a striker, you've got to be doing a little bit better there, I think.
Yeah, it is. You want your striker to always throw yourself at it and be brave in those situations. He did have a keeper coming out to him, but that is a textbook 50-50 there, and they're both battling for the ball. If he gets to the ball first and knocks it in, Yates, then it's a good goal. But I watched it back because I was intrigued. I was thinking, is it too far ahead of him? Has he got it in the area where he didn't want it? But when that play is building up, he's pointing to Pato where he wants to put it, and Pato has put it on a sixpence. So I don't think you can have much of an opportunity more than to stick it away than in that situation that he asked for. So I really don't think Yates has got anyone to look at there than himself, that he hasn't sealed it for us. It is hugely frustrating, but equally as frustrating is deep into injury time. We suddenly decide to stop pressuring the man with the ball. Birmingham get 2 or 3 passes away, and then Jordan James, who well from his time with Wales, Steve, he's a great prospect for Wales and another great midfield prospect for Birmingham, and he's popped up from 20 yards and stuck it bottom corner.
Yeah, it was a gutter, wasn't it? I mean, I felt we were quite comfortable. I mean, a lot of minutes went up on the board, which I felt was over the top, I've got to be honest, but yeah, I mean, from a Birmingham point of view, it's obviously a really good strike from from outside the box. Difficult for a goalkeeper to do much with it, but it just felt like he had far too much time. I mean, in that situation late on, I mean, you can't be allowing someone to take a pot shot like that. I mean, it just felt as if people weren't pressuring the ball in the way that they should have, and paid a heavy price for it, haven't we? It's a real shame, because that would have been a great win for us. An early win for the new manager. And, you look at the fixtures that are coming in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be a lot harder for us to win those games. And, we've done a lot of the hard work, and yeah, just disappointing. I wouldn't say I'm annoyed, because I could see the progress that we've made. I mean, we talked a bit about the moves that we've made there. The second goal in particular, a really good move. I mean, I know Yates didn't finish it, but that was a good move. We'll come on to the fact that maybe we could have stolen it with another move next time, after I finished going on about this, I suppose. But we really should have seen that out. And they're a team low on confidence. That's the other way of looking at it. They've, Birmingham have struggled. There's a reason why they've had 3 managers this season. Obviously, maybe the first one shouldn't have been sacked, but they've struggled, haven't they? And they've been low on confidence, and yeah, they've managed to get back into the game, and it's our own fault, unfortunately. And yeah, just disappointing, because that would have been a great win, wouldn't it? And instead, the journey home felt a little bit flat then, didn't it?
It did. And it was hard to assess, really, how you get that analysis of the game, because it was weird. We went into it. We're all talking on the way up about how, Luke Williams doesn't do crosses high into the box. He plays along the floor. He plays corners short, etc., and what we came to expect of it. And until the flurry of chances across the floor in the second half, everything was going in the air. Everything was coming into the box at height and for us to attack. And it was weird to how much of that was Luke Williams allowing old things to carry on for now while he works on it, and how much of it was him thinking this is the way this team has to play. And it wasn't necessarily, first half in particular, how I expected us to set up in terms of how we played with the ball. We did a lot more looking after it, but when we got to those positions, we weren't afraid to put a ball in the air, were we?
Yeah, exactly. I think that was one of the better things from us, really. We you could just see those moments that you could tell we could have far more of an idea of what we were trying to do, really. I mean, under Duff, you just never felt it. We've said it plenty of times, haven't we? And refer back to Martin's first game, where a lot of mistakes, but again, you could see a clear plan. And it did just feel as if when our players had the ball, there were far more options for people to pass it to.
Yeah.
So that's what I took as the encouragement. And like I said, some of those good moves. I mean, the second goal, the one that Yates should have scored, the Joe Allen chance at the end, that's
God.
That's such a frustration because it was a great move. And obviously, I don't know if the ball bobbled or something.
He's going to be
from the time,
that's
but
probably replayed over in his head a million times because the stage was set, wasn't it? It was set up.
I would have just been a glorious moment as well. Obviously, Joe's suffered a lot since he's come back here. It's not really worked out so far with injuries, but I thought he did really well the other day. So there was a lot to be encouraged about with his performance. That really would have capped it off, and it is a shame that didn't come to fruition. And to have stolen it back late on would have been such a buzz as well, wouldn't it? But look, I could see positive signs. That's the most important thing. So and we've got to be realistic here. We're in mid-table. We're not really doing anything. It's not gonna. I don't think we're going to be looking back at that at the end of the season and going, that sent us down or that's cost us a playoff place. I think it's just more the general frustration of 2 points drop. So it's really not the end of the world. But look, you're only human. I mean, if you're not a little bit disappointed, then you may as well stop going because it just shows you've become a bit disconnected from it.
Yeah. If you can't win a game, Steve, you've got to take lessons from it. And I guess the one thing we can take from this is there's stuff that we would have seen through the season that Luke Williams had an opportunity to see firsthand. Our inability to hold the lead. That's 23 points that we've dropped from winning positions this season. We've taken the lead 10 times in away games, and we've only ended up winning 4 of them. These are stats from BBC. So, I mean, looking at that, there's a clear area, and Williams addressed it in his post-match conference as well, where he said, I don't know why we decided then in the last 10 minutes or so, especially when that board went up, that we decided, right, we were going to, what we have, we hold, whereas we were dominating the game. We were absolutely, Birmingham looked shell-shocked. So we could have gone on and carried on attacking and got that third in injury time. No worries at all. But it was only then, of course, when they did equalise, did we create another opportunity, which proves we were more than capable of going up Birmingham's end and creating goal-scoring opportunities. So Williams pointed out, we should never have stopped doing that. And hopefully that's something that, even though it's cost us short-term, the lessons learned will pay dividends long-term.
Yeah, I think what I liked about what Williams has said there is as if he was saying he knows he needs to work with the players. Now again, the previous manager, there would be a case of it'd be the players' fault, and rather than that, this manager's recognising that he needs to, he hasn't had much time here yet, and there's things that he needs to work on, and and he gave good messages with saying that praising Margetson and Sheehan for working on set pieces, for example. It's just all about giving positive messages and making people feel valued, which we certainly haven't had in the first half of this season, I would say. So, I think there's a lot to be encouraged about. Rome wasn't built in a day, as I've already said. Going to have to be a bit patient about things. But look, we're on a reasonable, I feel positive about the future. That's the most important thing, even though the next couple of weeks do look a little bit daunting.
They do. And I think what I liked about Williams' attitude towards it is there's a medium ground which he struck quite nicely, I thought. You don't want your manager to go out and pretend all was rosy in the garden and say it was fantastic. We've had managers in the past, fantastic managers too, that have come away from a 3-0 defeat and said we were exceptional, we were the best team in the league. And you go, come on, take the rose-tinted glasses off and see the game for what it was. And also you've got managers, as you alluded to there, who've thrown players under the bus with late drop points. And you say,
I think realistically now, it's a lot harder for managers to pull the wool over your eyes. I mean, realistically, we all know people are able to access games much easier than they used to. So the fact is, if you've seen the game already, you've probably already formed an opinion of what you've seen. And if a manager says something different, you're scratching your head and thinking that you can't really take this guy seriously because he's talking crap. Whereas years ago, obviously, when you couldn't watch games, you were then reliant on maybe what had been written in the press, or obviously what a manager said would carry a bit more weight. You'd be more likely to give people the benefit of the doubt, wouldn't you? But that's not happening anymore, is it?
No, and I like, he's obviously praised the positive things we've done there, but at the same time, he's noticed what we've been saying for a long, long time, which is we have this real soft underbelly at Swansea where we don't seem to handle pressure very well. We seem to roll over for our belly to be tickled at sometimes. And it's when we are at the most vulnerable. That's when we need to stand up to be counted. And I think you look at the two periods in which Birmingham scored. The first one was just after we scored. Do not concede just after you score. And the second one is in the dying embers of the game. Another time where you're going to expect the opposition to throw the kitchen sink at you. And that is where you need to, do your basics and not getting out to Jordan James. And I think there was a player before him as well that we didn't get out too quickly enough to stop the ball progressing in our final third. It was little moments like that, which, if you want a manager to pick out things, you want him to see the game in a similar manner that the fans are seeing it and address those issues. And he certainly picked out on both of them. And so, we need to react better. And it, as much as anything, Steve, it's a psychological issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. They've just got to switch on a little bit better, really. I think that would be a criticism I would say about it. But look, I mean, these things, we've got plenty of time to work on everything now. I mean, as we've said, it's because we're in quite a safe position in the league as well. We can, the pressure's not on for immediate results either, is it? So,
no.
I think we can relax really within reason in terms of, and just be patient and hope that things improve. I mean, I think that they will. And, there's reasons to be optimistic about that as well.
Do you think Luke Williams is going to continue with corners coming deep into the box in the air? Do you think he's going to be playing that way? Or do you think you expect to see a lot more going forward of the short corners and whip balls across the floor?
It's an interesting one. I was quite surprised by our approach the other day, and obviously the fact that we scored from it probably makes it a bit trickier. But I do think in general variation is the way to go. I mean, there's no reason why a few can't win the box. But at the same time, corners do have a low success rate in general anyway, don't they? So, I mean, I don't mind if Williams wants to, go down the short corner route. But there's definitely, a point as well to putting it in the box. As we've seen, with Darling, we've got a big threat, haven't we? So, I think maybe it'll be a gradual phasing out, or certainly maybe a gradual thing of trying to vary it a little bit more. I mean, Martin was quite extreme, wasn't he, in terms of, everything had to be a certain way from day one. I think, that's not always the best way to go. Sometimes you're better off being on a little bit more gradual with certain things rather than changing everything straight away. So I could see the point in that as well, really. But, we'll get the answers, won't we, over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, and I mean, the logic behind the short corner thing, I mean, you have set-piece coaches. A lot of clubs now employ one specifically for that, and we do as well. But, I mean, you're going to have players set to mark up certain players, be in certain areas positionally, whether you're defending man marking or zonal, and you're going to have waiting for the corner taker to signal that he's about to put that ball in, and it's all action stations. If that ball goes short, players carry on moving about and there's a man running to the edge of the box. It disrupts the patterns of your defensive setup, doesn't it? And that's where chance are created. And Luke Williams said in that press conference, if you still haven't seen it, definitely hunt it out on YouTube, where he talks about short corners and how many shots they get away from a short corner as opposed to what you get chance creation from a ball into the box. But as you say, when you get that opportunity then and you've got someone who can attack the ball like Darling, it is a tool which you can use going forward. So I think we're pretty much covered on it in terms of how we feel about it, Steve. We come away a bit disappointed, a little bit deflated with the manner of and the timing of the late goal. But and it did feel a little bit like 2 points dropped, but at the end of the day, no one came away, no, I didn't see anyone come away angry or pissed off or anything like that. It was more just a bit gutted for the team. Yeah, exactly. Just the general frustration, really, of being in a good position and, conceding at the end as opposed to, being especially annoyed, or I wouldn't say it ruined my weekend or anything like that either. Just put a dent in it, really. So, yeah, look, it happens. And I was talking to one of the boys on the way out and saying we've had a lot of late goals recently, not all of them entirely deserved. So sometimes what goes around comes around, and maybe we had a bit of payback for that one. We did, yeah. So we move on, and as you say, I guess the needing of picking up points in games like that will perhaps display themselves in the next few weeks, because we've got a horrid couple of fixtures coming up where you don't expect, or you can't expect, us to get a massive return from. First one is the visit back to the Swansea.com stadium for Russell Martin. Steve, Southampton visit on Saturday. Early kickoff, by the way, something I'd forgotten about.
Yeah, move for Sky, which isn't a great shock, I suppose. Look, we've played Southampton quite recently. It proved to be a long afternoon, didn't it? The run that they're on is amazing. I think it's closing on 20 games in it without losing. A lot of them have been wins. They've really closed up now on the top two as well, haven't they? So they'll be full of confidence. The main thing is that they've sorted defensive issues out, haven't they, since Colin Calderwood's gone in there. They haven't been conceding anywhere near as many goals. So, the disappointment there from our point of view would be that I think we were linked with him, and obviously it didn't happen. And you feel like that could have been a difference maker. For us, we didn't finish far off the playoffs last year, and if maybe we could have done a bit more defensive work, that might have helped us. But look, it's ancient history now, isn't it? But it's going to be a really tough game. I mean, we're going to struggle to get the ball, I think, against a team that have, the informed team in the division, really, probably even above Leicester based on the last 20 games or so. So, it's going to be a difficult one, but the pressure's off, really. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of expectation on it, but look, it would be nice to upset the apple cart, wouldn't it, and bring the run to the end.
It'll be a good atmosphere. It'll be a game for the purists, I should imagine. I just hope. I mean, there's obviously, hopefully, a shrinking section of the fan base that are still pining for the Southampton manager, and I think now that Luke Williams is in post, I do think people have found a new man to devote their attention to. But that said, I hope it's not going to be a case of where if Southampton do pull off, as people expect, an away win on Saturday, that people don't say, oh, look, this is what we could have had, because let's be honest, the resources at Southampton and Swansea are vastly different, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a different ball game completely, really, isn't it? So, it does show that, managers with, if it shows that Martin clearly had something and needed a degree of backing that he didn't get here. But at the same time, realistically, he was never going to get the level of backing that he's got at Southampton either. So, yeah, look, it's not a shock, is it? When you look at the top of the division, 3 of the top 4 are parachute payment teams, and they're ones that came down last year. I mean, Ipswich are the ones that are flying the flag for the mere mortals, really, at the moment, aren't they? But, yeah, I mean, 3 of those other 4, they're in a different world, aren't they, really, to the rest of us? They've got, really strong squads. We may have no players at all that would get into most of their teams. So I think that really says where we're at, doesn't it? And most other clubs in the division are in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of clubs last season where you thought, almost as a championship fan, you almost didn't want them to come down, because you knew they weren't short of a few quid. As a Premier League team, Leicester in particular, really shouldn't have ended up getting relegated. I know they've had their financial difficulties the last couple of years, but they were a sure thing until last season's capitulation. And Southampton, well, they another club which have got a steeped in history in the Premier League, and coming to this game with the parachute payments and a squad that could. A lot of them could stay in the Premier League. It is a good squad that they've got. But, I mean, we're at different levels now, aren't we? The way we handled our finances post-relegation, or in fact, not post-relegation, but pre-relegation, is kind of why we're in those different situations, Steve, aren't we? Because we clung on for a couple of extra years and splashed money where it just wasn't there to be splashed. And we ended up paying a very, very hefty price when we got relegated.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing was really that Southampton, when they went down, did at least have assets, didn't they? I mean, they had Ward-Prowse obviously was sold to West Ham. Obviously, I'm sure there's a few others. Nathan Taylor, they had. I know he was successful at Burnley last year. but then he's ended up moving on, doesn't he? And that's just two off the top of my head, really. So I think that's the thing. They had players that other clubs would have wanted, whereas most of ours were not wanted, were they?
Because we had poor business in the past 2 years as well, didn't we?
Yes, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, if you look at it like that, we wasted it. Whereas at least when Southampton went down, they would have been looking and going, well, there's players here that other clubs are going to want, so you're not going to have a major problem then, really, either are you? And I think a lot of the other clubs that came down were in the same boat, really, weren't they? I mean, I know Leeds seem to have lost a lot of players, mainly on loan, don't they? But they have sold a few, like Sinistera. I mean, Leicester obviously sold Maddison, being the main one, didn't they? But a few others have moved on as well. But obviously they've kept a lot of other players. And yeah, that's the thing. If you're in a position there where you've still got players that other clubs want, you can easily sell them, and then you're able to keep some of the other ones that you'd like to keep. You can still add to what you've got. And the relegation then doesn't hurt you as much. And I do genuinely think as well, since COVID, those parachute payments are now quite a significant advantage, far more than they were before that. So it is getting very difficult now for the likes of us to compete. That's why last year was really a missed opportunity, because the league wasn't as strong. There weren't as many standout teams, really. So I think that's the issue that we're in now. It does feel like those teams that are coming down are quite a big advantage. I mean, it could well be this year now that the three teams that went up last year will come straight back. But, I mean, Burnley would have had 2 lots of parachutes and stuff like that. I mean, Sheffield United the same. Luton will be on them for the first time. I mean, those clubs then are going to have an advantage. They're not going to be as good as what the teams are now that have just come down, I think. But at the same time, they're going to have the advantage then, aren't they? So you're just in a never-ending cycle, really, it feels like. And then if you're like us and you get to the point where you haven't gone back up when your parachutes run out, you're in a little bit of trouble, really, I think, because, yeah, your wages will have gone down a lot and your income has shrunk drastically. And you're then reliant on probably more of a Brentford type of model, aren't you, where you're bringing people in, selling them on, and you have to do that enough times that then you're in a position where you can bring people in that other clubs, most other clubs can't, and you progress it that way, really. But, I mean, that is a very challenging way of doing it, but that is the thing that we now have to do, I think, to be successful.
Well, there's been a lot of talk, or whispers, I should say, about our scouting model and how much they've invested in the background in improving that, because that's what you have to do when your finances run dry and you're basically your wages to income is way out of hand. You need to address that. You're going to have a few windows and a few seasons where you're licking your wounds and everyone's up for sale, essentially. And it's still the situation we're in now. And if a bid comes in for one of our senior players this window, you'd imagine that we'd look at it, because we do need to have a certain level of, especially where FFP is concerned, where you need to have certain level of financial stability at the club. But to improve, as you mentioned, the Brentford model, and the players they picked up, 7-8 years ago, that they then end up selling on for astronomical figures, like Neil Maupay and stuff. You think, well, those are the sorts of big piece of business we need to do, but you need to have people in the right places to pick up those bargains to do it. And too much of our shopping is done in the predictable, overpriced market. We've probably done that this summer as well, Steve, and that's where we're going to have to improve. We're going to have to start thinking outside the box and shopping in lesser travelled waters, really, aren't we? And I know the ruling now on signing players from abroad has been relaxed, so perhaps
I think you're only allowed 4, aren't you, that don't need a work permit. But I mean it does give you an extra opportunity, really, doesn't it? Yeah. So that was always going to hinder everybody, I think. But yeah, because a lot of Brentfords were along those lines, weren't they? I mean, you mentioned Maupay, and then Ben Rama was another one, wasn't he? Yeah. So, that does, give us a little bit more of a chance, I think. But I think the key thing is with business, if we're going to sign people, they've got to be, for money anyway, they've got to be players that are under 25. That's the way that I would look at it, because then they've got their resale value. I think the big problem we had in the late years in the Prem, we were signing a lot of players that were coming for like a last big contract, and then there's no resale value with them. Whereas I think that was the good thing for the teams that have just been relegated. They did have a lot of players with resale value, so then that's a bit of your game changer in it. Whereas the likes of Andre Ayew and Wilfred Boney, when you bring them back, they do not have resale value, and that's what leaves you with a problem, really, doesn't it? So, I think that's
what you think your focus on January would be if there is business to be done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at last year, and I mean, Ogben, who's now at Luton, that was a player that we were strongly linked with and wanted. I mean, that would have been a good one for us. I mean, I think he's about 25, and there would have been the resale value within there as well. And so, that I think those are the type of deals, if you can do them, we should be doing. I mean, other than that, I'd be looking at more to bring someone in on loan. But obviously, we got the issue then, haven't we, where we don't have any space for another loan player at the moment, or if we do, one of the ones we've got won't be able to feature in the squad, really. So, obviously someone could get sent back. So that's something that could change. But yeah, I think we need to be looking in that direction.
We can always drop Rushworth for Fisher, mate.
Yeah, we could, can we? But I wouldn't recommend that, strangely enough. But yeah, I think we should. I've got no problem with bringing in players over that age group, I must say that. But we've got to be realistic then about the deal. I mean, I know the Joe Allen thing hasn't worked, but I mean, before he came here, I think he played 40 games the season before for Stoke. It's a free transfer on a low wage, or maybe not a low wage, but it's a reasonable wage. It's not a crazy one. So then you have to judge each deal on its merits. Now, on the face of it, look like a good move. So, I wouldn't criticise those type of ones. But I think the problems come when you're signing like the older ones that don't have the resale value, really. So I think we just need to focus on younger ones. We need to try and find the next Perot, don't we, and this type of thing.
Who buys them? Because, I mean, every club will be saying the same thing. You want to buy a player, 22, 23, you want to buy him while he's still got potential, because then if he has a good couple of years, someone's going to come in. Or say you buy a 24-year-old, and then you've got a player who's 27, because you think then they're at the peak of their career, you're going to make a massive profit on them. But then you're expecting another club to come in and do what you wouldn't do and spend big money on a player who's already at his peak with no resale.
Yeah, I mean, Prem clubs will do that, won't they? Because they're in a position where their finances are so strong that
they want someone for the here and now.
Yeah, they can just afford to do it. I mean, if we went up, we'd be in that position, really, wouldn't we? So
yeah,
that's how we've got to look at it. I mean, you think of Sigurdsson left us at 27, did he? And Everton bought him for a fortune. Now, I know Everton are probably an example of a club that have not done good business in recent years, and obviously they've signed a lot of players they've not made any money back on, and that's partly why they're in the position that they're in. But I mean, they were looking to improve, and they could afford at that point, couldn't they, to bring Sigurdsson in for that type of money, and that's what they did. So yeah. I think that's the thing. And obviously West Ham bought AU off us again. They wouldn't have been thinking of resale value with him, would they? So they
never thought they'd get their money back from either.
No, they didn't until they played us for mugs in the end. But I think certainly when you're in the Prem, it's that type of thing, isn't it? But then you've got, the fact is, if you bring people in that maybe 21 or something, then you may well sell them slightly. Like McBurney went at 23, maybe, did he, to Sheffield United? So at that point, I know he hasn't really maybe kicked on the way they would have wanted. But I mean, if he did, then there would have been a chance to maybe sell him to an Everton or a West Ham, and then they'd make even more money off it. So yeah, it's from that point of view. And I think it's when you get to about 28, 29 that you're really then looking at, thinking, well, this player now is looking maybe for a 3-year contract, potentially a last big one. And they're the type of ones you should avoid. Your Martin Olsons, your Leroy Furs and Boney, AU, these type of ones really, which we got stung with, and all of them left for nothing, didn't they, I think?
Yeah, for Christ, there's some relegations between Olsen and Furs, isn't there? Thinking about it.
There's a few.
When we were talking a few days ago, moving on, Steve, about the Morecambe game, Luke Williams' first actual game in charge, and we were talking about it would be nice to progress in the Cup, and you were saying nice to have a Cup run. There's not going to be a lot else going this season. So when the Cup draw came out after progressing, and we got Bournemouth away, I can only imagine how your face buried in your hands. Probably, apart from the day out aspect, which we'll come on to in a minute, how that's even been fucked up. It's a fixture Swansea City haven't enjoyed.
Yeah, day out, that's a way of putting it, isn't it? But yeah, Bournemouth has been a bogey for a long time, isn't it? I mean, me and you were still in university the last time we beat them. It was 2007. I mean, the manager was Roberto Martinez, and 2 of the goals were scored by an on-loan striker called Warren Feeney, and I think Bournemouth were, Eddie Howe hadn't even taken the job at this point. He was still on the playing staff. So that's how long ago it is that we beat them. Obviously, we've already played them once this season in the League Cup, and they dumped us out of that. But I did look at this the other day.
We threw away a 3-goal lead last season, didn't we?
Yeah, I think that says it all. We couldn't even beat them then. But I think it's our 13th meeting with them since we last beat them. I was looking at this the other day. So, I don't know, maybe if you're superstitious, maybe it's, it's time that we do it. But it's not a great draw, is it? They beat QPR in the last round. I actually think Bournemouth, I know they started the season badly, but they did a lot of good business in the summer transfer window. I'm not surprised that it's turned around. I think now they're in more of a position I thought they might be in, which is like lower mid-table type of thing. But obviously, you wouldn't have thought that they would be such a bad start, followed by a big upturn in form with wins at places like Old Trafford. But that's a tough draw, isn't it? And at least I was thinking it's not that far. We might have a reasonable support down there and stuff like that. Let's be fair about it. S4C have massively stitched us up on there. I'm fuming about it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's completely unacceptable moving a Saturday game to a Thursday. I thought the Monday night slot was the worst one you could ever have. That annoys me. That shouldn't be allowed to happen either. To give us a Thursday, honestly, that's a disgrace, that is. I'd like the club to have actually refused it. I'm sure we probably can't. But, I mean, if you're going to talk about fans not being classed as very important and stuff like that, I mean, that really is like a joke. You would need to finish early on a Thursday to go down there for most people, and then you'd need a Friday off, for example, or you'd be getting back at stupid o'clock. Like, we accept when you have games on a midweek that this will happen. Like, if the game went to a replay, it is what it is. But that game is meant to be on a Saturday. Why is it being moved? It's not like they're going to get great viewing figures for it either, is it? I mean,
I know Bournemouth's a tiny stadium anyway, but I'm really surprised if they even sell out. I mean,
they're probably thinking the same thing. Yeah, they'll even be thinking, on a Saturday at least, we're more likely to go. But now people will be thinking, it's been moved to a Thursday. Can I be bothered to go there on a Thursday, especially if it's on TV? I mean, don't get me wrong, they might struggle to find S4C, but look, it's annoying, isn't it? I think that's nonsense. I do think we're getting to the point now, really, where there's actually too much football on TV. Like, you're not going to get high viewing figures for that. I mean, there's no need to move it. Just leave it at 3 o'clock, where far more people are happy. There was no need to move the Morecambe game to 5:30 either. That was stupid. But at least it was still on the Saturday. I mean, moving this to a Thursday night, you just think, come on now, we've got to get a grip over this. There's some things that shouldn't happen. I think if you move a game to a Friday night, I can live with that. That's not too bad. Saturday early and evening, okay. Sunday, not ideal. But, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 4:30, whatever it is, that's okay. Mondays and Thursdays, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. I do genuinely think that it's not acceptable. And I bet match-going fans, pretty much everybody would agree that those 2 slots, if you go into a game or whatever, it is terrible. When I finish work on a Friday, I don't want to be thinking, I got to come back in on Monday, and I wouldn't have seen us play by this point because we're playing Monday night. Whereas with this one, it's like you've moved the game forward now, and we don't have a game on the weekend because it's a Thursday night. Like, it's just stupid. S4C. I'd rather they can't show any football than move games to a Thursday night.
I guess the knock on of that as well is we were going to be playing Leicester away, another game we could have gone to on the Saturday, which got moved. So you would think at least we'll have the game on the Saturday.
Yeah, they could. I think the issue is Leicester are in the cup as well, so you couldn't do a lot about that. But there would be a big part of me thinking, right, can you just move the Bournemouth game, just move it forward by an extra day to the Wednesday? If Leicester were out of the cup, meaning we could play them Saturday, I mean, there would at least be a benefit to it then. We do have one game on a Saturday, whereas now
shit on twice.
And a game on a Tuesday. People don't want these things. The Leicester
in Europa League, those are the sorts of days you expect to play if you're on Europa, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a downside to it. I didn't like the Thursday Sunday thing, if I'm honest, but I suppose when it means you gloriously win in Valencia and we're on the booze in Benidorm, maybe we'll reluctantly accept that little chore. But with this, there's just no need, is there? It's and if you look at the replies to the tweet when it went out, nearly everybody was annoyed about it, and rightly so as well. It's it's crap. I can't describe it any other way.
It is. I just touched on it then. It is Leicester after that. The fixtures don't get any easier. I guess Luke Williams is going to learn how his teams can cope. This team can cope against teams that will expect to have the lion's share of possession, because in these, 2 or 3 of these games that we've got coming up, you're going to expect us to have to battle to get the ball, and he's going to have to get his ideas in and bedded into the players' brains.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. And I think Leicester in particular, is as hard a game as you can ever face at this level. They're on 60 odd points, so they're not far off 70 points, I think, already, aren't they, Leicester? They lost the other day, one of a rare defeat, really, but I think it's certainly on New Year's Day, they're on 65 points.
Yeah, they're still on 65, but it's a ridiculous point total for this time of the season.
They may need literally 10 to 12 points to get a playoff place. We're talking that ridiculous year, averaging about half a point a game, and they still get in there. That's how crazy Leicester's situation is, really. So, I'm expecting them to break a lot of records unless it gets towards the end of the season and, promotion is secured and, they slack off a bit, really. But, yeah, they're in such a strong position, aren't they? It's going to be an incredibly difficult game. But, again, there's not a lot to lose there, really, is there? There's, it's more of a chance for the manager to have game time and put his ideas across, and no one's expecting a lot, are they? So, yeah, it's both the next 2 league games are going to be challenging, plus that FA Cup game, really, which I suppose is the disappointment from the fact that we didn't win on the weekend. It would have just been good to have got that first league win early on, knowing that it's going to be tough over the next couple of weeks. But look, it is what it is. The way to look at it is those fixtures will be out of the way. Then we aren't going to play them again this season, and that can only be a good thing, really. But look, it's going to be really tough in it. Leicester were incredibly impressive down here, weren't they, in October? A very strong team. Going to go look at the strikers, and Vardy, Iheanacho, and Daka. The two, Iheanacho and Daka, were on the bench. For nearly every other club, they'd be starting in this division, wouldn't they? So that shows you the type of tasks that you're up against. So it's going to be a challenging game. Just have to see how it goes. But I think after that is certainly, we've got Plymouth at home, I think. And yeah, I think that one, we'll be quite pleased to face a lesser side, I think, at that point then, where hopefully we can get a win on the board if the next 2 games go as expected. But look, I think if we get 1 point from the next 2 games, without trying to sound too negative, that wouldn't be a terrible return, I think, based on the quality of the opposition that we're going to be facing.
No, I've just been clicking away ahead to the fixtures over the next couple of months, and even February has Leeds and Ipswich back to back, and then Sunderland away following that. There's some really challenging fixtures to tail off the season. March, we've got the Bristol derby and then the Cardiff derby for back to back as well. Just not ideal at all. You're going to have to deal with the issue here, Steve, that Luke Williams is going to have a testing first couple of months, I guess, as a Swansea manager, and people need to look beyond the initial results, because what we need to do here is look ahead to next season and put the groundwork in place for that. Yeah,
exactly. As you say, the next 2 games are tough, but it doesn't get hugely easier, because we have got Leeds and Ipswich next month as well, haven't we? I think we've got Sunderland's another game that we've got. It is quite a challenging fixture list, but obviously at some point it'll get slightly easier as well, won't it? So look, you've got to play everybody twice, haven't you? But as you say, it is more now of trying to build towards something for next season, I think, which is what I did say when we made the change of manager, really, and that's why a cup run would be something that could be good for us, I think, because it feels like we're in mid-table and trying to build towards the future. But look, we're just going to have to be patient, and hopefully we just see positive signs where players improving, and we're seeing good patterns of play and stuff like that, and that will give us things to be encouraged about, because it's not been a great season to this point, as we know. A good thing is we have managed to win a couple of home games recently, and our home record in particular has been really poor in it. So just we're looking towards building, aren't we? I think it's not a case of the here and now at the moment, is it?
No, but of course we are in the middle of January transfer window, not even a whiff of a Swansea City signing yet. But to get one or two possibly in this window might give us a bit of a lift as well with those fixtures coming thick and fast.
Yeah, I think it would. We're not really getting linked to anybody, are we? So it doesn't feel like a lot is happening behind the scenes. I mean, I do think we've got quite a big squad, and it wouldn't be a bad thing if some left. To free up a little bit of space, maybe. But, I think it's obvious, as we talked about Dembele, the Birmingham winger earlier. I mean, we're crying out for a player like that, I think, ideally, aren't we? I mean, but what you can do in January, it's challenging, isn't it, to bring people in? So, I suppose Bolassi's maybe someone we should talk about. I mean, are we going to extend that? I mean, we didn't see him at all on the weekend. I didn't think he had a particularly good game against Morecambe. The impression I get really is that he's a bit of a spent force, unfortunately. I saw positive signs when he came on as a sub against Huddersfield. I thought he looked okay then, but yeah, I'm not so convinced that we should extend that. I mean, I don't think he's better than anything for maybe a 10-minute cameo at the end of the game, really. I mean, I don't know how you see it.
I wouldn't extend. I don't think he's done. He seems like a great personality to have around, but we've seen.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. That's the shame about it, really, isn't it? You think if he still had the ability, he could be a fan's favourite because, he's replying to fans, and he had some Cardiff fan dug him out, and he bit back at him, didn't he? And for my money, he won that argument. So I think it's in that sense he's great, isn't he? But I'm not convinced that. He's what we need at the moment, and you can't go offering people contracts based on personality and stuff like that, can you? I mean, the game's not that sentimental.
No, we've given contracts for most other things, but I think at this point we need to be more frugal and make sure that we get value for money. And I think Balassi, I don't imagine he'd be on a lot. He's been out of contract for 6 months anyway, but his position would have to have been coming here and put in a few displays which turn draws into wins or defeats into draws, and he just hasn't done it. He's shown flashes here and there, particularly in his first couple of games, but he's been a bit part player, and like you said, we've got a bloated squad anyway, so I can't imagine we'll extend that deal. But if he does go, then he goes with our well wishes, and hopefully you find another club and stuff. But we'll see what happens with that. I hope that there is movement in this window. It might well need to be movement on the outdoor before it is indoor. But who wants to come and bid for Swansea City players? Who knows? Might have to shift a few out on loan, but we'll see what happens there. Steve, before we go, a few moments of inspiration for you, some positivity to take forward. We will not be doing a podcast next week because we've just covered the 3 games and they're all midweek ones, so we're going to struggle to fit one in and get it out to you before it's out of date already. So we'll squeeze one in around deadline day, hopefully do one on deadline day, so it'll be nice and fresh for you, and you can listen to it the day or two after. When we're proven to be completely wrong on most things, but we'll see where we can go with that. But yeah, final thoughts from you, Steve.
We saw encouraging signs, I think, on Saturday, so that's certainly a good thing. So I think this weekend is going to be difficult, but just got to do what we do, give the players our support, and just see what happens. But I think we've got to go easy on them. I think at this point, as long as we see signs of what we're trying to do, and obviously everybody giving their all, pulling in the same direction. It's the manager's first league game at home, so let's give him a good ovation as well. And what will be really. I mean, in terms of results, I can't say expecting a huge amount, but it is what it is. So let's just let's do what we can, give the boys our backing, and fingers crossed it'll turn out better than maybe what we're expecting.
And let's look at it. It's a 12:30 game, so. If we do the unexpected and win, then dry January goes out the window for some people and they go out and celebrate. And if we don't and it becomes a humbling afternoon, then you've still got the rest of your Saturday to forget about it and go out and walk around the shops with your missus or something. Oh, God. But we got all that to
look forward to. No one's win that, hopefully. No one should be lowering themselves to that.
There we are. You've heard it from Steve himself. Thanks so much for listening to this week's pod. Like I said, we won't be in one for next week with the midweek games clashing with when we normally record. So we'll come back the week after around deadline day, and we're looking to do one around the time where the window closes so we can give live reactions to what's going on in and around the club as and when it happens. So look forward to that. Steve, until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.